Welcome to the Book Fair, Children's Literature for Grown-Ups. I'm your host, Anthony, and today I judged a book by its cover. While I was shopping for groceries, I stopped by the book section and I came across an interesting-looking title and decided to pick it up just for fun. And that is Can't Spell Treason Without T, a cozy fantasy steeped with love by Rebecca Thorne. All Reina and Chianti want is to open a bookshop that serves tea while firelight drifts between the rafters. But Reina works as one of the Queen's private guards, and Chianti is the most powerful mage in existence. Leaving their lives isn't so easy. But after an assassin takes Reina hostage, she decides she's thoroughly done risking her life for a self-centered queen. Meanwhile, Chianti has been waiting for a chance to flee responsibility. All the better that her girlfriend is on board. Together they settle in Tawny, a town nestled in the icy tundra near Dragon Country, and open the shop of their dreams. What follows is a cozy tale of mishaps, mysteries, and a murderous queen throwing the realm's biggest temper tantrum while these two women discover just what they mean to each other and the world. I look forward to reading this book over the next couple of weeks. It looks like a lot of fun, and it looks very cozy. This week I also finished reading The Relic of Hoomspire by Sasha Gajic. I will have the Goodreads review linked in the description below. I did rate it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was very good, a very nice love letter to dogs in general, and you can really feel how personal everything was. It was all done out of love. The only problem I had with the book, and this is purely my personal tastes, is that the constantly changing POV characters broke up the pacing a little bit. Now let's move on to headlines. We're going to start with good news after last week's roundup of bills targeting public schools and libraries. Alabama families and librarians sue to challenge censorship policies that take books off library shelves. This is coming from democracyforward.org, and it's reporting out of Prattville, Alabama. The board's new harmful policies include measures that allow the board to prevent libraries from acquiring any books marketed to minors that include material on a broad and easily malleable selection criteria, as well as ways to use the arbitrary, quote, selection criteria to remove existing books from library shelves, including books like To Kill a Mockingbird and 1984, among many others. In addition to these classics, the selection criteria approved by the board have overwhelmingly restricted books with themes about and protagonists of diverse backgrounds, especially the LGBTQIA+ community. On May 9th, Democracy Forward represented a coalition of families and librarians in challenging the Ottawaga-Prattville Library Board of Trustees policies, filing a lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Middle District of Alabama, seeking an injunction against the policies on First and 14th Amendment grounds. The coalition challenging the law includes Read Freely Alabama, a grassroots group from across the state who connected through their concern about these policies, the Alabama Library Association, a chapter of the American Library Association, and a trusted trade organization representing the people who keep libraries across the state open and welcome for all, as well as a group of Prattville parents whose families have experienced the harms of these policies. Link to the full article is going to be in the description of the podcast. The next article is a very brief one. The 2024 Barnes & Noble Children's and Young Adult Book Award winners. It announced 24 titles in March being considered and narrowed it down to 1 in each of 3 categories and 1 winner overall. The first category for Best Picture Book is I Lived Inside a Whale by Jenn. The book award winner for young readers is The Misfits, written and illustrated by Lisa Yee and Dan Santat, and in young adult, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. The overall book award winner was The Misfits by Lisa Yee and illustrated by Dan Santat. The final article for this week is Enid Public Library bans Pride Display entering third year of Pride Display battles. This article comes from Book Riot. Enid Public Library created an LGBTQ+ Pride Display in June 2021 that began the ongoing battle over LGBTQ+ books in the library. The display was celebrated and cheered on social media following complaints sent to the Public Library Board by a homeschool parent in the early days of the book banning panic. By April 2022, the Enid Public Library Board enacted a policy that banned all displays and programs related to, quote, sexual content. This led not only to the banning of pride displays in the library, but it led to the cancellation of a popular romance book club and canceling of a book display about Sexual Assault Awareness Month. As an aside, this is Anthony saying, these kind of restrictions do have the unintended consequence of also calling out and limiting things like Sexual Assault Awareness Month. This is the kind of information that should be promoted and readily available in safe spaces like public libraries. There should be resources for people who may be struggling with abuse or victims of abuse, or who know someone who may be a victim of abuse, and these kinds of resources help people notice the signs and give them a safe place to maybe speak up to a trusted adult. And these kinds of restrictions that make libraries unable to have these kinds of events or even just these kinds of materials available to them ultimately harm children in the long run. Returning to the article, the policy was changed after a fierce backlash. The ending of a romance book club was a bridge too far, and the results were a policy that differentiates library displays from exhibits presented by outside organizations. Displays created by the library itself needed to be of a general nature with nothing political or partisan. Outside groups interested in creating an exhibit in the library would apply to the library director for permission, with an outline of what the exhibit would include. These exhibits come with a 3-week time limit. Exhibits could include material of a partisan nature, though in neither displays nor exhibits could materials deemed harmful to minors be permitted. Finally, let's wrap up the episode with some recent releases. These are all books that are releasing within this past week, the first of which is Beach Cute by Beth Reekles. From the author of the hit Kissing Booth series comes another sizzling story following 3 very different girls on summer vacation. Equal parts romance and humor, this is the perfect beach read for your next getaway. Luna, Rory, and Jody are strangers in the need of a getaway. Rory has to come up with a creative way to break it to her family she wants to pursue her art passion, and as for Jody, she feels lost in both life and love. But these 3 strangers have one thing in common. They are on their way to the same resort. As their lives collide under the sun, will they have a summer they'll never forget? This book is recommended for ages 14 to 17. Next release for me to highlight is Lunar Boy by Jes and Cin Wibowo. He hasn't since he and his adoptive mom disembarked from their spaceship, their home, to live on Earth with their new blended family. The kids at school think he's weird. He has a crush on his pen pal who might not like him back, and his stepfamily doesn't seem to know what to do with him. Worst of all, Indu can't even talk to his mom about how he's feeling because she's so busy. In a moment of loneliness, Indu calls out to the moon, begging them to take him back, and against all odds, the moon hears him and agrees to bring him home on the first day of the new year. But as the promised day draws nearer, Indu finds friendship in unlikely places and discovers that home is more than where you come from. And when the moon calls again, Indu must decide, is he willing to give up what he's just found? This book is recommended for ages 8 to 12. The final release to highlight is Puzzleheart by Jenn Reese. 12-year-old Perigi has never met a problem they couldn't solve. So when their dad's spirits need raising, Perigi formulates the plan. A road trip to dad's childhood home to reunite him with his estranged mother. There's something in it for Perigi, too, as they will finally get to visit Eklund's puzzle house, the mysterious bed and breakfast their grandparents built but never opened. They arrive ahead of a massive storm, and the house immediately puts Perigi's logical, science-loving mind to the test. Corridors shift. Strange paintings lurk in the shadows. Encoded messages abound. Despite Perigi's best efforts, neither the house nor Grandma will give up their secrets. And worse, prickly Grandma has outlawed games and riddles of any kind. Even the greatest of plans can crumble, and as new arguments fill the air, the house becomes truly dangerous. Deadly puzzles pop up at every turn. Knives spin in hallways, and staircases disappear. The answer lies at the heart of the house, but in order to find it, Perigi and their new friend Lily will need to solve a long-lost, decades-old riddle, if the house itself doesn't stop them first. This book, with a non-binary protagonist, is recommended for ages 9 to 12. Short, simple, sweet. Just some interesting titles to highlight for this week, and some news to look out for. Thank you so much for listening to the Book Fair Children's Literature for Grown-Ups. If you do wish to support the podcast, the best way to do so is simply by telling a friend about the show. You can also follow on Threads at BookFairPod. And if you'd like, you can even go to patreon.com/thebookfair. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, I'll talk at you next time.